So there are a lot of videos out there titled things like Japan is dying or what's happening to Japan, etc., etc., etc. And a lot of these videos they're either claiming that Japan is getting like dirtier, it's run down, there's more crime, tourism is ruining everything and foreigners are ruining everything, or it's talking about how Japan is going through population decline. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I grew up in America. I only speak English, but I'm one fourth Japanese, so I feel like kind of a connection to the country. So it's like something I care about. Basically, there's multiple reasons why Japan's population is decreasing every year. In fact, it's been decreasing for about 16 or 17 years in a row now. It's one of the healthiest cultures out there, so they have a lot of people in their like hundreds still, 80s, 90s, like retiree age, but families aren't having children at a fast enough rate to replace the people who are dying off. Yeah, I just checked it up. According to the India Times, 1/3 of their entire population is over the age of 65. That's crazy. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 different ways Japan can address this issue. Right? There's 4 solutions, at least that I can think of. There's more, maybe you think of something along the way. And at the end of the video, I'll also discuss why the population decreasing might not be as big of a crisis as the news may make it sound, or as YouTubers may make it sound. Basically, a lot of depopulation is attributed to economic issues. If you are so poor that you don't think you can reasonably start a family, a lot of people won't even pursue it. Another way economics falls into it is if a young woman chooses to go after a really good career, a lot of the time they don't want to date someone who's very, very poor or who isn't as intelligent or skilled as them. So they'll wait off on marriage, which means that either they get married later in life or they wait so long it doesn't occur. And then a third way that economics kind of bleeds into this is just in general in first world countries. When people live these really comfortable lives where you can just kind of watch Netflix or play Steam all day and you go to work, you have some friends, maybe you have a really good job. When you're really comfortable, a lot of the times people just choose not to have kids. And so it's the combination of people being too poor to really want to have families or just having lives comfortable enough where they don't want to have families. This all leads to the depopulation issue growing. And it's not just Japan. Plenty of countries have this occurring. It's just the most noticeable in Japan because they've been on a downward trend for so long with no real stop in the future being visible. So with economics in mind, one of the solutions they could do is something I think a few of their politicians are already pitching. There's one of the politicians who's pitching like free daycare or subsidized daycare for families. But one thing they can do is basically give financial incentive to have kids and to start families. This could be anything from giving you really good tax write-offs for getting married, free daycare. Basically, you can try and change a lot of the laws to make it more appealing for people to start families. I mean, a government has the power to even just send over like $2,000 or $5,000 checks to like newly married couples or people who just had a kid if they really wanted to. This solution kind of feels a little more abstract though, because you make the laws and then you have to wait and see if they work. It's not instant, right? If they add all these financial benefits for people having kids, that doesn't immediately guarantee that they are going to have kids. So you would still have to wait and see if those ideas even work. I think the most effective way they could go about this, though, would be reducing the work week. Right now, Japan is famous for having people work night and day, these crazy hours, and then they go to the bar afterward, and their whole life is just kind of like work, bar, work, bar. I'm oversimplifying it, but this is like a stereotype attributed to not just Japan, but many Asian countries. And I think laws that help protect the worker and make it like you do your 35 or 40 hours and that's it, would give people way more free time for dates or maybe open up people to the idea of getting married or dating when they don't have to worry about being at their office nonstop. In my personal opinion, stuff like free daycare or tax benefits to help increase the birth rate would help a little bit, but decreasing the work hours that a citizen is expected to do or increasing their paychecks would help a lot more. The second option Japan has is to open its borders for more immigration. I don't think this is a very popular solution, and I don't think it's the one they're going to pick. One of the big complaints about depopulation is it leads to less and less skilled laborers or laborers at all. So technically they could start importing people from other countries for the tech industry, hotel industry, restaurants, blah, blah, blah. This is by far the easiest solution to pull off, but I don't think it's the most popular. And I think it's to some extent what Japan is actively fighting against right now, because they just chose a new prime minister. I believe her name is Sanae Takaichi. I'm probably butchering that. But she's very Trumpian. She's very anti-immigrant. And from the polls I saw, it's like 66% of Japanese people agree with her anti-immigrant sentiment. The reason this solution is potentially not appealing to a Japanese citizen, even though it is kind of the easiest and fastest way to just bring more people into the country, is because if you have a culture and you really like it, bringing in too many migrants or people of different cultures risks your culture either no longer existing in the future or having a smaller role in the country than it does now. The new prime minister has pitched in making laws to address over-tourism. She has sworn to get rid of many of the illegal migrants within Japan, and she also plans to change the laws that foreigners cannot buy land as easily as they, I guess, currently can. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm just relaying stuff I've seen in news articles. But I've definitely noticed that this anti-immigrant sentiment is all throughout the world recently. I especially see a lot of it from European YouTubers. Here in America, it's really become like a left and right political issue. I don't know if that's the case in every single country, though. I don't ever expect Japan to fully close its borders. I think they'll always allow some tourists. It's one of the hottest places to visit. I also don't think they'll turn down skilled laborers. If they need somebody for the tech industry, they'll probably let someone in for the tech industry, so on and so forth. But I do think this prime minister will follow through with her promises. I do think they're going to be tougher on tourists and migrants in general. And of the many ways that Japan could solve depopulation, I do think they're going to try and focus way more on using money or social programs to encourage people to have kids rather than try and just bring in new people. The third route they could go, I think, is the least realistic. The government could try and pressure people to have kids. I've never heard of any country in history ever doing this. If there has been one, list it in the comments and I'll do a video on it. But it is technically possible that a government could put a really high tax on single people, so much so that it becomes way worse to live as someone who's single as someone who's in a couple. And so you'll get a bunch of people joining relationships just to avoid these financial issues. This is basically just the opposite approach of the first one I pitched. And I don't think it's a very realistic one, but I felt it was worth mentioning all potential options. The fourth option is, to be honest, the one that I think is gonna happen, and that's Japan may just do nothing. Though the country can try and make different policies to affect if people have more kids or not, at the end of the day, it's an individual decision. And if individual people feel their life is fun enough as is that they don't want to pursue a family, or they don't feel that it's even worth pursuing a family given their current life situation, then you're just going to have less kids and it's going to get smaller and smaller every year. I mean, there are countries out there with really small populations like Sweden and Ireland. I don't think it's impossible that we have a future 80 years from now, 80 or 100 years from now, where Japan becomes closer to countries like that in size. Ignore the obvious costume change. Going back to the title of this video, Japan is dying and that's okay. The reason I say that's okay is because I think it is fine for the country to get smaller. Nobody says somewhere like Sweden is dying. It has about 10 million people. And nobody makes videos called Finland is dying. But Finland only has 5 million people, right? Japan is over 80 million right now. But there is a future where it keeps shrinking, but still maintains what it is, right? It might lose its status as an economic powerhouse, but Japan can stay Japan and exist into the future as just a smaller version of itself. I don't think shrinking will change how people behave interpersonally there. I think their culture is pretty set in stone, and a lot of them will carry on with it as throughout their whole lives. In summary, yes, Japan is shrinking in population. At the moment, it doesn't look like that's going to stop, but that doesn't mean the country collapses and everyone dies or becomes third world. The reality is it is possible to survive as a small country. And to hammer in my point, I just Googled Iceland's population, and it's less than 400,000 people, but nobody makes Iceland is dying videos. Personally, I think Japan will be okay, even if they shrink. End rant. Bleh. I feel like I mumble too much. End rant. If you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe, do all the things. This has been an MKV video. Have a nice day.